So, if you're watching this video, you're one of two people. You're either about to buy the Carbatec TS-C250P, or you're a dedicated viewer of J&D Creations and you're just watching any content I put out. You are the best kind of person. So, I've owned the TS-C250P for quite a few months now, and I'm gonna let you know what I think of it, the pros and cons, and if I think it's a good purchase for you. And just to clean up any misconceptions here, straight off the bat, this is not a sponsored video. Carbatec have no part in this video whatsoever, so you know I can be brutally honest. So, let's take a look at this saw. So this table saw is a 2.5 horsepower or 1875 watt motor. There's two different fence options and there's two different wing extension options. The one I've got is the 30-inch wing extension with the T-glide fence system. Now, you can get a high-low fence system for this, and there is also a 50-inch table extension. Personally, I don't really understand why you would get a high-low fence on a table saw. I much prefer the T-glide system. To me, a high-low option is more suitable for a bandsaw and resawing, especially when the high-low option with this fence really isn't that high. It comes virtually set up. You've got to throw a few different bits and pieces on it. I'll leave a link just up here for my setup video for this saw. It's got a 10 amp plug, which is fantastic for someone like me who works at home. I don't have to get 15 amp power run, and I obviously don't have access to 3-phase power here. So this is fantastic. It's dado capable, and in my opinion, it's got the best overhead dust extraction system of the entire Carbatec range. I say that, I don't have that on at the moment, but this is the blade guard and overhead dust extraction that I was talking about. It's connected to a writhing knife, so it just slots straight in and out. Very easy to install and remove. The saw comes with a hose that attaches in the back here and runs down to the 100mm port that I will show you later. So you can run the entire dust collection system with one output. It's got the anti-throwback teeth at the back. It's got a guard at the front and two side panels that will adjust with the thickness of the material you're pushing through. Let's raise the blade up and I'll show you how it works. So, as I said, very easy to install and remove. The hose comes with the saw and connects straight into the back here. You've got a hook that attaches to the back of your extension. The hose can run along so it doesn't interfere with any of your cuts. Also conveniently doubles as a gripper hook when you're not using it. So yeah, I am quite happy with this. Although I don't tend to use it that often, probably should use it more. So I went for the 30-inch option on this saw because I've got the lathe over in the corner there and I needed some room between the end of the extension and the lathe so that I could use that. So with the setup I've got and with the hook on the end to hold the hose, I can get a maximum cut depth on the right-hand side of the blade of 770mm. I've got the rail system set up as the instructions tell you to. But if you wanted to achieve more cut capacity out of this 30-inch model, there's no reason you couldn't adjust your rail system, move it down so you had more length on the right-hand side of the blade. Because let's face it, how often are you going to have the fence on the left-hand side? You don't really need rail over here. So without doing any measurements, you could probably add another 400mm to your cut capacity if you shifted your rail system down. Now in my setup video that I linked earlier, I go through the whole setup and how I put the rails and everything on. Would be very easy to adjust that. So for this saw, I run a dedicated 80-tooth crosscut blade, which is what I've got in there now. And I've also got a 24-tooth ripping blade. The saw is extremely capable. I have not had any issues bar one, and that was user error. So when you get this saw, there's a transport bracket that's attached to the motor that holds the motor stable. You obviously remove that once you set up the saw. Now it either wasn't listed in the manual or I just completely missed it, but where that transport bracket mounts into the motor, it's actually a tensioning point for the motor. So you need to replace the bolt. So what happened for me once off was I had to cut really bogged down, and I noticed when I put the blade at a 45-degree angle, I was having issues as well. Those issues were purely because the pulley system inside had no tension on it bar the weight of the motor. So when I turned it at the 45 degrees, it was loosening up on the belts. It wasn't able to deliver the power that it actually contained. Since I put that bolt in, I've had no issues. This thing cruises through Jarrah, which if you're not from Australia is ridiculously hard wood, and it has handled everything I've thrown at it. If you're going to buy one of these and you're in a situation like mine where you are working in a home workshop, I would highly recommend the Bora mobile base. The Bora PM 2500 from Carbatec is more than capable of handling the weight of this saw, and as you would have seen in my previous videos, it allows me to move this thing around when and if I need to. I'm yet to cut miter grooves in my new outfeed table, so when I use my crosscut sled, this one I built up here, I just wheel this table backwards so that I've got the room to push the sled through the blade. But in my honest opinion, I really do love this saw. It's been a great addition to my workshop. I'm super happy with it. When you weigh up the cost of this versus something like a saw stop, which is what I did want to go with, I'm arguably getting the same cut results. I just need to pay more attention so that I don't cut my fingers off, which isn't a bad thing. But so far, my experience has been fantastic. The fence system works great. Everything on it works great. I only have one gripe about this saw, and it's trivial. It really is, but it drives me nuts. That's how long it takes to drop the blade from full extension to completely gone and back to full extension. It would have been absolutely awesome if Carbatec had used the system that the saw stops have, with one rotation being an entire drop, an entire raise. Don't get me started on 45 degrees. That's just to get it to 45. That's not even to get it back. In all honesty, the time it takes to adjust the angle of that blade often puts me off the thought of cutting angles on this saw. So if Carbatec were to make one improvement to this model, I really hope that it would be that adjustment of the blade, and that you could do an entire adjustment in one rotation of the knob. It would be super handy. One other little hiccup I'm coming across, and I wouldn't so much call it a fault because I have been looking into workarounds and I think there may be one. When I drop this blade, it stops dead on 45 degrees. Now there are occasions where I would like to bring it just past that 45 degree mark, but currently I can't do that. I have been looking into it, and there may be some adjustments I can do inside the cabinet of this on the dead stop for that 45 to allow it to just push over. But I'm not 100% sure. I haven't looked at my actual saw yet, but it is definitely something I'm going to look into, because the flexibility to just go past that 45 would be really handy. There is one other thing that I think Carbatec could include with this that would be really handy. This is my first cabinet saw, so I don't know if this is how it is with all of them, but changing this blade is extremely fiddly. You don't have much room to get in there, and when you get this plate off, you've got all the dust extraction stuff in there that can get in the way, especially when you've got hands the size of mine. Now I know John High's built a jig that he attaches to his table saw, and he can twist the knob so that it untwists the bolt on the arbor. Something like that included with this saw would be phenomenal, because blade changing is something that I dread. It's fiddly work. I drop the bolts all the time down into the cabinet, and I just don't like doing it. So I tend to keep this blade on for 90% of my cuts, which isn't always the best thing to do. So, couple of gripes with this saw, but nothing major. These are all trivial things that I just think would be more convenient if Carbatec looked at. But I can't complain. It's a great piece of kit, and I would highly recommend it if you're looking at getting a cabinet saw. Great value for money, it's dado capable, it's 10 amp, and it's really not even that loud. I was amazed at how little noise it made the first time I turned it on. If you're going to buy one of these, there's a few things that I'd suggest that you build to complement this machine. First and foremost, an outfeed table is essential. I've got a ridiculously fancy one that I built. You can check out up here, but it looks like it belongs indoors, not in a workshop. Second would be a crosscut sled. That has been super handy since I built mine, and if you want to see how to build a really simple one, you can check that out up here too. So, final verdict, I would recommend you purchase this saw. I am happy with it. It has done me wonders. I don't even know how long I've had it now. It feels like forever, but I think it's about maybe 5 months, and it has handled all the Australian hardwood that I've thrown at it without a hiccup. Carbatec also stepped up their instruction manual with this one, because when I bought my lathe, that instruction manual was so bad, my 3-year-old could have done a better job explaining it. It was even stapled down the wrong side and backwards. But full color instruction manual, very well laid out. It goes through just about every step. There were a few things you sort of had to just figure out for yourself, but they were common sense stuff like mounting the switch and putting in all 5 of the bolts on the rail system and not just the 3 that were covered in the instructions. So if you are contemplating buying this saw, I would highly suggest it. I love it. It's been great. This video has been requested from me over a multitude of platforms, so I finally got it out. If there's any questions that you want answered that I didn't answer in this video, make sure you leave me a comment down below. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know I respond to everything in the comments section, so I will definitely answer your question as best I can. I can't promise I know everything. But that's it for me today, guys. I've got a project in the works, a video that's going to be coming out very soon that I hope you enjoy. It actually uses the table saw an awful lot, so that's a bonus. But until we see each other again, stay safe and I will talk to you soon.